This is the first lesson of staying silent, understanding that growth happens in the quiet moments, not in the loud ones. When you're constantly talking about your plans, constantly explaining your strategies, constantly seeking validation for your ideas, you're dissipating the very energy that could be used for actual transformation. It's like digging up the seed every day to check if it's growing. The constant interference prevents the natural process from occurring. I've watched thousands of people over the years, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that the ones who achieve the most extraordinary results are often the ones who speak the least about what they're doing while they're doing it. They understand that there's a time for planning in silence, a time for working in silence, and a time for allowing results to speak louder than any words ever could. But silence isn't just about not talking. True silence, the kind that allows everything to come naturally, is about creating space in your mind, space in your heart, space in your life for wisdom to emerge. You see, wisdom isn't something you can force or manufacture. Wisdom is something that emerges naturally when you create the right conditions, when you stop trying so hard to figure everything out and start trusting the process of life itself. Most people are afraid of silence because they're afraid of what they might discover about themselves in the quiet moments. They fill their days with constant activity, constant noise, constant distraction because they don't want to face the truth of who they are and where they're really going in life. But here's the paradox: it's only in the silence that you can truly hear the voice of your authentic self, the voice that knows exactly what you need to do and exactly how to do it. I remember early in my career when I was struggling to find my way. I was constantly asking others for advice, constantly seeking opinions, constantly trying to figure out the next step through endless analysis and discussion. And you know what happened? The more I talked, the more confused I became. The more opinions I sought, the less clear my own vision became. It wasn't until I learned to sit quietly with myself, to listen to my own inner wisdom, that clarity began to emerge. This brings us to a crucial understanding. Your inner wisdom is always speaking to you, but it speaks in whispers, not shouts. It communicates through intuition, through subtle feelings, through gentle nudges that you can only perceive when your mind is quiet enough to receive them. When you're constantly filling your mental space with noise, with other people's opinions, with endless chatter, you drown out the very voice that could guide you to your greatest success and fulfillment. The natural world provides us with countless examples of this principle in action. Consider the mighty oak tree. It doesn't announce its intentions to grow tall and strong. It doesn't seek approval from other trees. It doesn't constantly explain its growth strategy to anyone who will listen. The oak tree simply puts down deep roots in silence, draws nutrients from the earth in silence, reaches toward the sun in silence, and over time, without fanfare or announcement, becomes one of the most magnificent and enduring forms of life on our planet. This is what happens when you align yourself with natural principles and allow things to unfold as they should. You stop trying to force outcomes and start trusting the process. You stop trying to convince others and start focusing on your own development. You stop seeking external validation and start building internal conviction. You stop talking about what you're going to do and start doing it. But let me be clear about something important. Staying silent doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean sitting back and waiting for good things to happen without any effort on your part. What I'm talking about is purposeful silence, strategic silence, the kind of silence from supreme confidence in your direction and absolute commitment to the process of getting there. When you truly understand your purpose, when you're absolutely clear on your values and your vision, you don't need to constantly talk about it. Your actions speak louder than any words could. Your consistency demonstrates your commitment better than any explanation. Your results prove your capability better than any boasting. This is the power of letting everything come naturally through the disciplined practice of purposeful silence. I've noticed something fascinating about people who have achieved extraordinary success in any field. They all seem to share this quality of quiet confidence. They don't feel the need to constantly justify their decisions or explain their methods. They don't seek approval or validation from others. They simply do what they know needs to be done, day after day, in relative silence, allowing their work and their results to speak for themselves. This quiet confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop through understanding and applying natural principles. Just as a river doesn't strain to flow downhill, but simply follows the path of least resistance, while carving the grandest canyons, you can learn to work with natural forces rather than against them. You can learn to trust the process rather than trying to control every outcome. You can learn to be patient with timing rather than demanding immediate results. One of the most powerful aspects of staying silent and allowing things to come naturally is that it frees you from the exhausting burden of trying to manage other people's perceptions and opinions. Think about how much energy you spend worrying about what others think of your goals, your methods, your setbacks. Think about how much mental and emotional energy goes into explaining, defending, and justifying your choices to people who may not even understand or support your vision. When you embrace the philosophy of purposeful silence, you redirect all that energy toward what actually matters, the daily disciplines, the consistent actions, the patient persistence that creates real and lasting change. Instead of spending time talking about your goals, you spend time working toward them. Instead of seeking approval from others, you develop approval from yourself based on your own standards and values. Instead of trying to convince the world of your potential, you focus on actualizing that potential through quiet, determined effort. This shift in approach creates a powerful compound effect over time. While others are busy talking about their dreams and plans, you're busy living them. While others are seeking validation and approval, you're building genuine competence and capability. While others are explaining why they haven't achieved their goals yet, you're steadily moving closer to yours through consistent daily action. The natural world teaches us that the most powerful forces often work in silence. Gravity doesn't announce its presence, yet it holds planets in orbit. The Earth doesn't boast about its rotation, yet it creates the rhythm of day and night that governs all life. The sun doesn't seek recognition for its light, yet it makes all growth in life possible. These forces work consistently, reliably, powerfully, and silently to create and maintain the conditions that allow everything else to flourish. This is the model for how you can approach your own life and goals. Instead of seeking recognition for your efforts, focus on making those efforts so consistent and purposeful that recognition becomes inevitable. Instead of announcing your intentions, demonstrate them through your actions. Instead of trying to convince others of your commitment, let your results provide the evidence they need. But here's something crucial to understand. Staying silent and allowing things to come naturally doesn't mean avoiding all communication or refusing to share knowledge and experience with others. What it means is being selective and purposeful about when, how, and with whom you choose to communicate. It means speaking from a place of wisdom and experience rather than hope and speculation. It means sharing what you've learned rather than what you're planning to learn. When you do choose to speak, your words carry more weight because they come from a foundation of actual experience and proven results. People listen differently to someone who speaks from accomplishment rather than ambition. They respond differently to someone who shares wisdom gained through patient persistence rather than theories developed through wishful thinking. This brings us to an important distinction between two types of people: those who talk about doing and those who simply do. The talkers are always planning, always explaining, always seeking input and approval, always adjusting their course based on the latest opinion they've heard. They're busy, they're vocal, they appear to be making progress, but somehow they never seem to arrive at their destination. The doers, on the other hand, are quietly consistent. They've learned to trust their own judgment and stick with their decisions long enough to see results. They understand that the path to success is not a straight line and that setbacks are part of the natural process of growth and achievement. They don't feel the need to explain or justify every step of their journey because they're confident in their direction and committed to the process. This confidence doesn't come from arrogance or stubbornness. It comes from understanding natural principles and aligning your actions with them. Just as a farmer doesn't need to explain to the seeds how to grow, you don't need to constantly justify or defend your methods to others. You simply need to plant the right seeds, tend to them with proper care, and trust the natural process of growth and development. The beauty of this approach is that it removes the emotional ups and downs that come from constantly seeking validation and approval from others. When your sense of progress and success comes from internal standards rather than external opinions, you develop a steady consistency that serves you well in all areas of life. You're not elated by praise nor devastated by criticism because you understand that both are temporary and neither determines your ultimate success or failure. This internal orientation is one of the most liberating discoveries you can make. When you stop living your life according to other people's expectations and start living according to your own values and vision, everything changes. You become more authentic, more purposeful, more effective, and paradoxically more attractive to the kind of people and opportunities that can truly support your growth and success. But this shift requires courage. It takes courage to stop seeking approval from others and start approving of yourself. It takes courage to trust your own judgment when others are offering contrary advice. It takes courage to stay silent when you could be talking, to work when you could be socializing, to persist when you could be quitting. This courage isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you build through small acts of faith in yourself and your process. Every time you choose to do what you know is right rather than what's popular or easy, you build courage. Every time you trust your inner guidance rather than external opinion, you build confidence. Every time you stay committed to your process, despite temporary setbacks or slow progress, you build the character that success requires. These aren't dramatic moments. They're quiet choices made in private moments that accumulate over time into extraordinary results. This is why staying silent and allowing things to come naturally is such a powerful philosophy. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing the right things consistently without the need for external recognition or validation. It's about building your success from the inside out, creating such a strong foundation of character and competence that external success becomes inevitable. Think about the people you most admire, the ones who have achieved the kind of success and fulfillment you desire for yourself. If you study their stories carefully, you'll find that most of their real progress happened away from public view. They developed their skills in private. They built their character in quiet moments. They made their most important decisions without consulting committees. They learned to trust themselves and their process even when others doubted or couldn't understand their vision. This private development, this quiet building, this patient persistence in relative silence is where all great achievements begin. It's in these unseen moments that the foundation is laid for everything that becomes visible later. Just as an iceberg's power comes from the massive structure hidden beneath the surface, your ultimate success will come from the disciplined work you do when no one is watching, when no one is applauding, when no one even knows what you're working on. The natural world provides countless examples of this principle. The most majestic mountains were formed over millions of years by quiet, persistent geological processes that no one witnessed. The most beautiful crystals are formed deep underground, in darkness and silence, through slow processes that require perfect conditions and unlimited patience. The mightiest rivers carve the deepest canyons not through dramatic force, but through gentle, consistent flow over extended periods of time. These natural processes teach us that the most powerful and lasting transformations happen gradually, quietly, naturally, without fanfare or announcement. They happen when conditions are right and when there's no interference from impatience or artificial forcing. This is the model for how you can approach your own development and achievement. Instead of trying to force rapid results through intense effort and constant activity, you can learn to create the right conditions for natural growth and then trust the process to unfold as it should. Instead of seeking immediate recognition for your efforts, you can focus on building the kind of competence and character that will eventually make recognition inevitable. Instead of trying to convince others of your potential, you can quietly develop that potential until it becomes undeniably evident. This approach requires a different kind of discipline than most people are familiar with. It's not the discipline of forcing yourself to work harder or longer, but the discipline of trusting the process even when progress seems slow. It's not the discipline of pushing through obstacles with sheer willpower, but the discipline of finding natural ways around or through challenges. It's not the discipline of constant activity, but the discipline of purposeful action guided by wisdom and patience. This kind of discipline is actually easier to maintain over time because it works with your natural rhythms and inclinations rather than against them. When you're forcing results through artificial effort, you create stress and resistance that eventually leads to burnout or giving up. But when you're working with natural principles and allowing things to unfold as they should, you can maintain your efforts indefinitely because they feel sustainable and authentic. The key is learning to distinguish between natural resistance and artificial forcing. Natural resistance is the kind of challenge that makes you stronger, like lifting weights or learning new skills. It's productive difficulty that leads to growth and development. Artificial forcing, on the other hand, is trying to make things happen faster or differently than they naturally would. It's like trying to force a flower to bloom before it's time or a fruit to ripen before it's ready. When you learn to work with natural timing and natural processes, you discover that everything becomes easier and more enjoyable. You're no longer fighting against the current but swimming with it. You're no longer trying to push doors that are meant to be pulled. You're no longer wasting energy on strategies that work against human nature and natural law. This alignment with natural principles extends to every area of your life. In relationships, you learn to attract the right people by becoming the right person rather than trying to manipulate others. In business, you learn to create value that people naturally want rather than trying to sell them things they don't need. In personal development, you learn to build habits that feel natural and sustainable rather than forcing yourself into behaviors that require constant willpower to maintain. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it becomes self-reinforcing over time. As you experience the power of working with natural principles rather than against them, your confidence in the process grows. As your confidence grows, your patience increases. As your patience increases, your ability to stay silent and allow things to unfold naturally becomes stronger. This creates a positive spiral that leads to increasingly better results with less effort and stress. But let me address something important here. Some people might interpret staying silent and allowing things to come naturally as an excuse for passivity or lack of ambition. They might think it means settling for whatever happens without any effort to influence or improve their circumstances. This is a complete misunderstanding of what I'm teaching. True silence, purposeful silence, is incredibly active and intentional. It's not the absence of effort, but the presence of wisdom. It's not about doing nothing, but about doing the right things at the right time in the right way. It's not about accepting whatever happens, but about creating the conditions for what you want to happen. Think of a master gardener. They don't just plant seeds and then ignore them. They prepare the soil, they plant at the right time, they water appropriately, they protect the young plants from harsh conditions. They remove weeds that compete for nutrients. But they also understand that they cannot make the plants grow faster than their natural rate. They cannot force blooms to appear before the plant is ready. They work diligently within natural principles rather than trying to override them. This is the kind of active, intelligent silence I'm talking about. It's silence that comes from wisdom rather than ignorance, from confidence rather than fear, from patience rather than laziness. It's the silence of someone who understands the process so well that they don't need to constantly question, adjust, or explain every step of the journey. When you develop this kind of understanding and confidence, remarkable things begin to happen. Opportunities start appearing that you never could have planned or predicted. Resources become available that you didn't know existed. People enter your life who can help you in ways you never expected. Doors open that you didn't even know you were looking for. This isn't magic or luck, it's the natural result of aligning yourself with principles that govern success and fulfillment. The reason this happens is that when you stop trying to force and control everything, you become open to possibilities that you couldn't see before. When you stop talking constantly about what you're trying to achieve, you start noticing what's actually available to you right now. When you stop seeking validation from others, you become more attractive to the kind of people who can genuinely support your growth and success. This openness to natural opportunities and synchronicities is one of the most practical benefits of learning to stay silent and trust the process. But it only works when your silence comes from genuine confidence and commitment rather than fear or uncertainty. The universe responds to authentic clarity and purpose, not to wishful thinking or passive hoping. This brings us to a crucial point about developing authentic confidence. Real confidence isn't about believing you can do anything or achieve any goal you set. Real confidence is about understanding natural principles so well that you can work with them consistently and effectively. It's about knowing yourself so well that you can trust your own judgment even when others disagree. It's about building competence so systematically that you don't need external validation to know you're on the right track. This kind of confidence is built through what I call the philosophy of small steps and long commitments. Instead of trying to achieve dramatic results quickly, you commit to making small, consistent improvements over extended periods of time. Instead of seeking immediate recognition, you focus on building the kind of character and competence that will serve you throughout your life. Instead of chasing trends and fads, you identify timeless principles and apply them consistently. The compound effect of this approach is extraordinary. Small improvements made consistently over time create results that appear miraculous to those who don't understand the process. Character built through daily choices and small moments creates strength that can handle any challenge life presents. Competence developed through patient practice creates opportunities that others can't even recognize, much less take advantage of. But perhaps the most important benefit of this approach is the peace of mind and sense of fulfillment it creates. When you're not constantly worried about what others think, when you're not always trying to force results that may not be ready to happen yet, when you're not exhausting yourself with busy work that doesn't lead anywhere meaningful, you can actually enjoy the journey toward your goals. You can find satisfaction in the process itself rather than only in the final outcomes. This enjoyment of the process is crucial for long-term success because it's the only way to maintain motivation and effort over the years it takes to achieve truly meaningful goals. If you're only motivated by the end result, you'll lose steam long before you reach your destination. But if you can find joy and satisfaction in the daily disciplines, in the gradual improvements, in the small victories along the way, you can continue indefinitely. This is why staying silent and allowing things to come naturally is such a sustainable philosophy. It doesn't require you to maintain artificial enthusiasm or forced motivation. It works with your natural rhythms and inclinations. It allows you to be human while still being highly effective. It creates space for rest and reflection without guilt. It honors both effort and ease, work and recovery, pushing forward and allowing. As you begin to implement this philosophy in your own life, you'll notice changes that go far beyond just achieving your goals more easily. You'll find that your relationships improve because you're less needy for approval and validation. You'll discover that your decision-making becomes clearer because you're not clouded by other people's opinions and expectations. You'll realize that your stress levels decrease dramatically because you're not constantly fighting against natural rhythms and timing. Most importantly, you'll develop a deep sense of trust in life itself. You'll understand that you don't have to figure everything out in advance, that you don't have to have all the answers before you begin, that you don't have to convince everyone else of your vision before you pursue it. You'll learn that life has a wisdom of its own, and when you align yourself with that wisdom through purposeful silence and natural action, everything becomes possible. The path to this understanding isn't always easy, but it is always worthwhile. It requires letting go of the need to control everything and everyone around you. It requires developing patience with natural timing and natural processes. It requires building confidence in your own judgment and your own process. It requires learning to find satisfaction in small progress rather than only in dramatic breakthroughs. But every step along this path makes you stronger, wiser, more effective, more fulfilled. Every time you choose trust over control, patience over forcing, wisdom over popularity, you become more aligned with the principles that govern lasting success and genuine happiness. You become the kind of person who naturally attracts opportunities, resources, and relationships that support your highest goals and deepest values. This is the promise of staying silent and allowing everything to come naturally. It's not a promise of easy success or immediate results. It's a promise of authentic success and sustainable results. It's a promise that when you align yourself with natural principles and trust the process of growth and development, you'll discover capabilities you didn't know you had and achieve things you didn't think were possible. The choice is yours. You can continue trying to force and control your way to success, constantly talking about your goals and seeking validation from others. Always busy but rarely productive. Always planning but seldom achieving. Or you can embrace the power of purposeful silence, the wisdom of natural timing, the strength that comes from trusting yourself in your process. I encourage you to choose the path of silence and natural unfolding. Begin today by creating more space in your life for quiet reflection and inner listening. Start trusting your own judgment more and seeking others' approval less. Focus more on doing and less on talking about doing. Build your success from the inside out through character development and competence building rather than trying to create impressive appearances for others. As you make these shifts, be patient with yourself in the process. Remember that everything in nature grows gradually, quietly, naturally. Your success will unfold the same way if you give it the right conditions and enough time. Stay committed to the process even when progress seems slow. Trust in natural timing even when you want results immediately. Keep working diligently even when no one notices or acknowledges your efforts. The seeds you plant today in silence will become the harvest you celebrate tomorrow in abundance. The character you build in private moments will serve you in public challenges. The confidence you develop through small victories will carry you through major obstacles. The wisdom you gain through patient observation will guide you to opportunities others never see. This is the way of natural success, sustainable achievement, and lasting fulfillment. It's available to anyone willing to embrace the power of staying silent and allowing everything to come naturally. The question isn't whether it will work for you. The question is whether you'll work with it. The principles are proven. The process is reliable. The results are inevitable for those who apply them consistently. Your extraordinary life is waiting for you in the silence between your thoughts, in the space between your words, in the patience between your efforts and your results. Step into that silence with confidence, trust the natural process of growth and development, and prepare to be amazed by what unfolds when you stop trying to force everything and start allowing everything to come naturally.